Thank you. I'm going to share my screen. I'm never too sure how long this will take. So let's see. All I'm seeing is my Zoom screen, not what I wanted. Yes, it is. Here we go. Let me close everything else. Okay. I have on my screen now DACdb's new login, and I just wanted to show it to you because they have told us, I'm also the district communication officer, as is Ken Fleeson for my district, and they told us that this new login screen was happening pretty soon. And also notice the new logo for DACdb. Some new things are coming, but your login you'll need to put in the first time you come here. Notice there is a remember me button down here. So you want to put that in. One thing they left off is the club number. But when you log in, it asks for your club number. So if you're required as a club officer to put one in, you will need to put it in at this time. So something just a little different. Give me your feedback. If you get to see this, tell me how you like it, whether you don't like it. It gives them the opportunity to say, we're going to be down next week, whatever they want here at this promotion piece. So I'm going to continue. And one of the things I want you to notice immediately is that this is the home page. It comes to the home page and you know you're there because of the home tab. And tonight I'm going to be talking about easy stories, how to create them, and then how to put them into your EZ Bulletin. So you can make a very easy bulletin from the easy stories. You can also keep your members apprised of what's going on because you can tell the easy stories to flow to this page. And if you choose to, you district stories come here, and you as a district officer can decide what people can see here. So and you just come up to the cog and decide if they're going to show how many stories, show the top stories, both club and then district, or district and then club, and how many columns. And you can set account default, and the account should change. It may only change for your club for some of you, but I think those of you that are district governors can set account and it will be changed for the district. Okay, so here's Franklin Daybreak's headline. That's the name of my club. And here's all of our different stories that we've written over the last little piece. And then here are the district headlines. So these are easy stories written by my district public image chair, and it's sent here as well. And I'll show you how to do that. So the first thing you want to do, and I have this written sort of in a script so that if you want it later to follow step by step, I can send the document to you. But starting with easy stories, you go to my club and then club easy stories. Now, if you get to this place, I've told you this before, I think, and you don't see club easy stories and club easy bulletin, then come up here again to the cog, and this is where you can decide what's on this page. And if you only use 3 or 4 of these, put the others away. So let's say that I don't do websites. I can take the websites off the page right here. And I'm just, for the fun of it, I'm going to take a bunch off so that you can see the difference. Okay, and then set my configuration because I don't want to set anybody else's like this, just me. So I set mine and it reset, and now this is what you can see. But that's how you can get easy stories if you don't have it as there as well. Okay, so we're going to go to easy stories. And you notice that my club uses this for our bulletin. There's lots of stories there. And let's just look at this for a moment. You can choose to see all stories. You can see stories that have been published, approved stories. You can review them or just look at the draft stories. Some clubs are large enough that they can have somebody draft a story, and somebody else like Lee Berger might come in with excellent English skills and proof it for you and then publish it. In my club, we're pretty small, so the same person draft and publishes it, and then once it's published, they fix errors that they notice later. But you can divvy it up. One of the things you need to make sure is that you have at least a level 4. If you're not a level 4, you can't do all the things that are necessary. So ask somebody in your district to help you be a level 4 so that you can publish your easy stories. This is something, only reason I know it is because Lee Berger of the Franklin Club every once in a while gets reduced to a level 3, and she says, Billy, I've lost all ability to do things, so I have to come in. Okay, so the very first thing you do when you're adding a story is click Add Story, and it's up in the top right. And there are 2 tabs. The story name is very simple, and it can be your headline. So Rotary clubs. And I'm not going to try to make too much sense. I'm just going to try to get things on the page today. So when I hit tab, the headline is the same as the story name. You can make them different if you choose. It's going to be in draft state right now, but this is where you come when you're ready to publish it. And it will not go anywhere until you have published it. If you're missing this piece right here, then you're not a level 4, so you need to ask to be a level 4. This is the story start date. So if you want to save this story for next week, you can put this date, and you simply click on the calendar and choose your date. I'm not seeing, oh, it won't go backwards. Come on. 21 October 21st. Not sure why it's not going for me. I may have to report that. But you can also highlight it and type if that's easier for you. Now this is post and tell. Remember when we were back at the home page and we were looking at the stories, you may not want to post a story there forever. You might want to put birthdays there and just a story with everybody's birthday in there. And so that would only last maybe for a month. So you make sure that this date is at the end of the month so that the stories stop appearing on the 30th or the 31st. Depending on whether you think October has 30 or 31 days. Now, something that we found out is that you can right here choose your main story image. And if you choose to get an image, this is a rather long and snaky road to do it, but I'm going to show you how you go about it. You choose the file. This takes you to your Finder so that you can find things on your desktop, and you would choose your file. And let's see, I think there's a JPEG. And that may or may not go. I like it easier to have my file and just copy it and paste it in my story. So I'll show you how to do that. Then we come down here to where you want the story to appear. My club also has a website supplied through DACdb. So we also put our stories on the website. And this is where these dates come into play, because you can refresh your website by popping in new stories and having them disappear after a specific time. So your website always looks fresh, and you didn't do much except check websites. We also want it to go at the home page where we looked at the beginning. Also, you can put it on dashboard. That's also up here in the home, but I think that's a little redundant for my club, so I don't put it there. And then EZ Bulletin. If you use e-meeting with DACdb, you can have it accessible to e-meeting. We don't use e-meeting, but I'm going to make it accessible to EZ Bulletin. So that's how easy it is to transfer it to your bulletin and to your website and to your homepage. We don't enable comments. That would be if you have a web page, the story goes to the web page and you enable comments. So somebody from the outside might be able to comment. Since we don't monitor our web page daily, that would be a kind of a scary thing if somebody put a negative comment up there and we couldn't reply or take it down because we don't monitor our website. If you monitor your website on a regular basis, you might want to get comments, and that's what enable comments is. You can decide to have a story date, a story separator, which is just a simple line, and a byline, which means it would say, if with these three checked, I'd have a line, a new story. It would have my name, Billy Black, October 21st, 2021. If you'd like to just have it clean, you can take out the story date, you can take out the byline, and maybe just have a line story separator. You can also put edited by if you choose to do that. So I'm going to do these, and I'm going to scroll down. Now, we have not defined any categories, and if you are a big district and you have different categories and you'd like some categories to appear different places, you and I can work with DACdb. The byline, I could actually choose to have anybody in my club look like they wrote this story. So you can just choose them from the line, so I could make it act like the president wrote the story. I'm not going to do that to her. All of my errors are my own. And you can also target certain role keys. So if you want just presidents to see this story, you can put a P in there for presidents, and only that story will only be viewed, particularly on your homepage, by presidents. Okay, so I'm not going to do any of that, and viewing level is 0. I wouldn't mess with that because you'll get some people not being able to see your story. Hello? Did we have a question?
Yeah, Billy, there was a couple of questions.
Okay.
Let me see here. Nico, let me see here. Can you click on the date and fill it in on the story start date? The yellow highlight is the default current. Okay, there you go.
Right. But it wouldn't move. It wouldn't change the date, and it wouldn't close. So I'm not sure what's up with that. I will report that. It should, Nico. That's the way it's supposed to operate.
Yeah, I did it on my end live.
Okay.
And whenever I clicked on the date, it was changing it in the field.
Yes.
But like the highlight was like obviously the default for today's date, but like whenever I hovered over like the 15th or even went back to like October 1st, it filled in the story start date.
Interesting. And I don't know how much of this is me not, see, I'd see it changing, but it's not getting rid of the calendar. I wonder if I tab. Nope, that brings up something totally different. And this may be a Mac issue, but I will.
I'm on a Mac too. Just click on the white space and the calendar would disappear.
Okay. Thank you, Nico.
There you go.
Yay. There we go. Thanks. As always, need a little help from my friends. And Rudy said, will I send a link to all of us? A link to the recording, I'm assuming, Rudy. And yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Ashley usually does that when she uploads it. So
great. Thank you.
Okay, so now we're finished with looking at that, and thanks for stopping me because I tend to go too fast and you all might get lost. So that's the information tab, and that you'll find that you'll go through pretty quickly. And so now I'm going to the story content, and I typically, let's see if I can get this. I'm trying to get to my, there we go. I typically write my story in another, in a Word doc. So here's the picture. Can everybody, did it pull the picture up in front of it?
Yeah.
Okay, good. This is the picture I want to pop in. This is both Rotary clubs working together in my town. And there should be a Word doc. Okay, so I typically write it in Word because I find I don't make as many errors, but I simply copy it and then paste it in the story. And here's another thing I hadn't noticed. Yay. So there's our story, and I can edit it just a little bit. One of the things that I've noticed on our district bulletin is that we put our whole story up here in the top box, and it makes our district bulletin very large. And some people are not interested in New Paul Harris Fellows and other clubs or something like that. I could put this, and then let me copy it again and scroll down. And you put the complete story in here. And I'm going to delete this part so that only this part, only the first sentence appears in the bulletin, and then it says read more. So if you're interested in that story, you can read more, and the story, when you click on that, you can read the whole story. So if you are working in a district bulletin where there might be multiple stories with lots of pictures, you might want to do it this way so that people can choose which stories to read. The only drawback to that is some of our folks like to print this bulletin. And if you print the bulletin, there's no way to click on the read more. And so they only get the abbreviated version. And I'm working with DACdb to see if there's something we can do about that, where you can click a button and it would populate. So maybe they have a 6-page bulletin once they click the button, but they'd be able to read the whole story. Okay, now if I can find my picture again, it was behind the scenes. And again, I just copy it and paste it. And it looks a little funky when you copy and paste it, but if you double click on it, it brings up the image property box. And what I do is I usually make it about 300 wide. And notice that it changed the height. You can add a border if you want a little bit of white space around it. So I'm going to put just 2 for a border, maybe 3 for a border, and we'll see what that looks like. And you can set it to the left or the right. That's all you can do. I'd really like to have a center, but we'll put it on the right and say, okay. And so let's see if we can move it up. And I usually have to play with it to get it to go where I want. This is the downside, I think, of easy stories, is that you can't mess with the picture as much as you'd like. Yeah, it's not. And I don't like that big border, so I'm going to come back. Oh, look, it had 2, 3. I didn't see that. Okay, so there's your story, and here's the full story down here. That's as easy as it is. So I'm going to go back to the top. Let me talk about just a couple things in here that you could change. This is exactly what you see when you see P-mail. Well, not exactly, but a lot of the same things for P-mail. So it's not exactly new. So if we wanted to do feed 10 million and put it in bold, I'd just come highlight it and click on bold. Italicize, underline. This is, I believe, strikeout. This is subscript, putting something just a little below. This is putting something just a little above. Let's see, what do we have? Scissors, you can cut, paste. And notice when I hover over it, it tells you what it will do. And then here's the one that you want for images. So that's removing format. And here's the images, I think. No, reset all. There we go, images. So just kind of play with this. Let's try clicking on this and going up to that first box and see it. I've got it centered and it's not really. See, it's not letting me center it, but that's how you could just move it back and forth at the last minute. So that's all there is to Easy Story. Make sure that before you leave here, you'll read it again, make sure it's what you want, publish it, and then save. This share button will send it so that the district can pick up your story and add it to the district bulletin. So you have to share it in order for the district to see it. But I'm going to save, and it takes a minute. And now let's see, it's disappeared from me. Oh, I put it as the 13th, so I may have to find it.
Resort, Billy, if you go back to how you were sorted before, it was like the 5th one down.
Okay, thank you.
I think you were sorting by start date.
Thank you. Story date, you mean?
Yeah, sorry, story date.
Okay.
Yep, and like
So
keep going, a few more down. There you go.
Rotary Club, there we go. So there it is. If you want to come back, if you notice an error in it, you simply click on the pencil. That's the edit. If you want to get rid of it, you can click the X. And you can share it immediately on Facebook. I've not been so successful with that because the size is not always compatible with Facebook. Okay, so that's all there is to making an Easy Story. Are there any questions about Easy? And there's the picture. Don't know how
Billy, how do we
managed.
do an Easy Story for the district?
Okay. Exactly the same way. Great question. You go to the district and find District Easy Story and add a story. And this might be the district governor's story about November, and you do exactly the same thing. Now, out of that and go back. Let's see if I can go back just by there we go. And let's see. I'm going to do story date. And see if, oh, I didn't share the one, but if I had shared it, my story would be in this list. So the person doing the district newsletter could edit it, because sometimes you write it for a different audience when you're writing it for your club's bulletin. So we always have the district bulletin editor come in and open it up and make sure that it reads so that the district will enjoy reading it as well. So Nico, that's all there is to it. Really easy. Now, any more questions before I go on to the bulletin? Okay. All righty. So, and again, it's the same thing in the district. I'm going to go to, I could go to District Easy Bulletin right there, but I'm going to do it for my club. And Club Easy Bulletin, and it's exactly the same way. So I'm going to really test the mettle of my club's bulletin editor, because I'm going to go and add a new bulletin. So I want to make sure that I'm going to open it up a little bit bigger. If you don't see the Easy Bulletin, you click on the cog before you get here. So there's a cog, and there's typically a cog on every icon page so that you can make sure that you have everything you need. Okay, so we're going to go to New Bulletin. And these are templates, and this is an old bulletin that we have used. So that's what we have used in the past. If you slide your cursor over some of them, you will see that we have, there's the one we currently use right there. Okay, but I'm going to start just like I may not have ever done a bulletin before. And the first thing you have to do is start with a new template. You have to decide what you want your bulletin, how you want it to appear. So you start with new template. Okay, the H is for header, B is for the body, S is sidebar, and F for footer. So you decide which one of these that you want it to look like? Do you want your sidebar on the right, sidebar on the left, maybe no footer? However you want it to look. Typically, we get, this is what we get, but you may want to do it any way you choose and mess with it a little bit. So I'm going to click on that. And once you click on that, you have just sort of a mimicked to mocked up small version of your bulletin. And you can change absolutely everything. So you're not going to stop now because you can change everything. I am up here at colors and themes, and everything we do here is going to affect this. So in general, your colors and themes. And this is important for the district bulletin. If each different club has a different font, then you will want to fix your stories so that all the district stories have the same font and size so that they look uniform. So right now we have a Parker theme, and you'll just want to look at, here's the Loveland theme. So it's red, Denver, and kind of mess with them all so that you see what you might like. That's what we used to have. And there's a Centennial with the gold. I'll leave the gold there. I typically choose to fit, will be uniform. You can change the font. There's quite a few choices for font and the size. And you can choose where to put the date. Whenever there is a sort of a plus sign, that means you can move this item over. So I would like today's date in the header, and I pop it over there, and today's date is going to appear in the header. And that's all I'm going to do with this color and theme. When you're finished deciding your color and theme, you go to header color. And this is the color of the header. And it's got the funky little values that you can put in here, but it also has what color. So you can choose exactly what color background in the header. I'm going to leave mine white, but you could come up here and choose any color you want, and just make it as ugly as you want or as pretty as you want, depending on your choices. I'm going to come back up here and see if I can find white again. This might be exciting to find white. I think, well, that's a gray. That will do. Okay, so that's the background. Then you can choose your text color and your subtext color. So you can have, if you're going to have subtext, you could have a different color than your text color. So I'm going to close my header color, and then you would just go all the way down through, and I'm not going to spend too much time, but notice that you can change everything, and we'll do a couple more. This is the body color, the body text color. And be careful when you're changing this body text color, because if you change it and have it a color that's hard to read for long periods of time, people will quit reading. Here's your body link and body title. I always like, if I have a link, to make it blue, because that's sort of the standard. But that's simply, when you want to get out of it, click the X, and then you go down to the sidebar colors, the footer colors, and you can look at, you can make an HTML bulletin and an HTML template, and I'm not going to go into that. And you can have dividers if you choose. Let's see. You can have, and be careful with this because it'll chop it up too much, but you just simply move over another divider. See if we can put, now we have a divider between the top and the bottom. And to get rid of something, you highlight it and choose the X. Okay, so I'm going to go back to the top, and I think I like this now. I might have that footer be a darker color. Let's see if we can put a dark blue on the footer. I think everything is going a little slow because my internet connectivity is not great.
Billy, I have a quick question for you.
Okay.
Has DACdb ever thought of defaulting the colors to our brand colors and our approved colors? Only because I know we live and breathe our hex color codes and probably could cite them better than most, but there are a lot of people that, to be honest, aren't going to have that information handy. So I think that would be, since you have the in to DACdb, it might be fun if you put a plug in that the default colors are our brand approved colors. And then if
I will
not,
do that.
the recommendation is just have your brand guide handy. That way you're not choosing an off blue, you're choosing the appropriate blues, etc.
Thank you. That's a great idea. And the Parker theme brings in the Rotary blue and leaves everything white. And if you remember what you're doing in a bulletin, you don't want a whole bunch of color just all over the place. So use color very judiciously, but that's a great idea, Ashley. Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to save. Notice that I can reset and go back to 0, and start all over again if I've mucked it up. So I'm going to save it, and then you give it a name. So I am going to name it so that my bulletin editor doesn't freak out with me. Well, it's so special when things won't save. Okay. And why it's not allowing me to do that. Nico, my Mac guy.
What's the question? It's not saving, Billy?
Yeah, it's not saving. It's not allowing me to type in the name. You guys won't have this problem unless you have a Mac. And it's only because I'm a brand new Mac user, I'm afraid. But anyway, you would type a name in here and describe it so that you can find it again. And then I'm going to hit submit and see, it's not even going to let me out of here. So I am going to get out of here and go back to my club, EZ Bulletin. And I'm going to edit a template that we already have. Okay. So here's the PI demonstration bulletin that I did earlier. Now, once you have your template created, you simply click on one-click build. And when you click one-click build, it pulls all your stories in, and that's done. But I'm going to see if I can open the advanced build. There we go. And this is what that would look like. Let's go back so that you can see what I did. My club.
So what's the problem, Billy, when you do that and you have a white screen and you don't have any of the boxes from the template?
Probably it has not saved. You and I would have to look at it together and do that offline. But I am going to just click on a template and get back to there's my PI demonstration. And let's do the advanced build so you can see what it looks like. So here's the body stories. And I should have added a top, but will. So here's all the stories in my Franklin Daybreak Club, the stories that are available. And so I simply decide which one I want first. So I'm going to say the social hour goes first, and then the spaghetti dinner. Now notice that I can make them all go back over if I don't like that, or I can make them all go over if you like the way they are. But notice I have 2 here, and one of them is probably an error. So if I was doing this, I would probably social hour first and Rotary Daybreak next, and Ryla, and just have 3 stories on your bulletin because they get this thing every week. You can resort them. No, it's not doing that. It's so special. You can have a story separator. Right now I have no story separator. Display the full story. So no more, when we talked about that, read more. And here's the center. This would make the story title centered. We'll do that one. Okay, then you come to the sidebar tabs and you decide what you want on the sidebar. Remember, we put our sidebar on the left. So this says your layout, full info. I may not want the full info I might just want name and location and time. Let's say name and location. It will do the Rotary Club. We have no provisional club. We got no Rotaract, none of these things. So I just leave the one. Now, if I want birthdays to appear on my sidebar, here's the layout, the name and the birthday. You can change what it looks like. You can have linked name and birthday. So when they click on it and they're reading this in the bulletin, it will take you to their picture in DACdb and all of their information. You can have linked name and birthday, let's see, and show their image, name, birthday. So you can actually have their picture on there. Let's do that one. So, go through all these and check them out. We'll have our start date. Since we do this every week, I'm going to have the start date be 10/21 and the end date just a week later. So 10/28. And sort it by birth date, because it's kind of nice to have it, whose birthday is first. And then what member types are you going to show? So I'm going to show active rule of 85. We don't have any satellites. So just active and active rule of 85. Those are all of our club members, but you could choose to add honorary, whoever you wanted to appear in this list. But remember, if you have an honorary member and you don't have their birth date in there, it's still not going to make them appear. So just kind of keep that in mind. So we chose to have the birthdays on there and Rotary Club information. Now we could also choose to have the leaders in your club, and this is the way it would go: name, position. And so you could do a picture, name, position. Here's all the different ways you could do that. Now, right now on mine, we have image, name, and position, so you can see what that looks like. And you can decide what you want over here. Notice that this is set up for a district because it's going to show district officers. So that's really cool because you may want to begin to familiarize your club with your district leaders. So I'm going to highlight all these and delete them. Yes, I'm going to delete them. There we go. And I could put, you want your president-elect, secretary, treasurer, and then, whoops, I got to have a comma in there. It won't. And then let's put the DGE, the DGE, and you could put anybody you wanted on here. Remember, you're limited by space though, so be careful. And you could also put your club leaders in the footer, which would be kind of cool. That would be another place. I'm not going to enter anything in there. And now that we're finished setting up what we want it to look like, and this process at the beginning is going to be long and snaky. So don't get discouraged, but have somebody that has some time to get in here and set it up. And then you can update the template defaults to these defaults. And for the most part, they won't have to change much. And I can say build it, and let's see. Don't you love it? So I don't know what the heck went wrong there, but let's go back to EZ Bulletin and show you one that's in draft. This is our last, what our bulletins look like. Notice that even the best laid plans, she has a story in here, so we'd have to fix that. So now that we're looking at it, we could go back. There's the club officers. One thing you might want to do when you're using these is uniform your pictures so that they all are the same size. There is our story about the Rotarian backpacks. And here's some service opportunities. We put our upcoming schedule so we know who's got the program, who's 50/50 and greeter. And that's about all we do. Notice you could put events in there. If you have any events coming up that they need to be on the calendar to pull them. Here's birthdays, wedding anniversary, years of service. So that's how easy it is to pull in all of that information and make it pretty easy. Now, this is a published bulletin. It's telling me it's already been published, but I'm going to unpublish it. Rachel's going to shoot me. And you can preview it to see what it's going to look like. And I'm going to go, got bars all over the place here. I'm having to move to get to things. Go back and I can save it. I can see what it's going to look like in an email and and that's important for you to look at. Now it says a test email has been sent to myself, so you can look at it to make sure that it covers all that you want it to cover and doesn't go over the sides, and you'll have to tweak it some. So that's what it would look like in a bulletin. I mean, in an email. Let me go back to and you can see what it would look like. A lot of my club members like to PDF it and read it on a piece of paper. So here's what it would look like. No, it's not. So I could simply click on save, but I'm going to go back to publish since this was published. And I've mucked it up so bad that it's not going to do anything. Let me close some of these windows. I think I've got too many windows open. Okay, so having had all these lovely issues with it, I don't know why that won't work, but how about if we have questions now? And I will answer them best I can. Got no questions. Yeah, my whole thing is frozen.
Hey, Billy, it's Nico. So I put a couple of things in the chat, so I always have questions. So
Okay.
it was funny. Ashley asked the question the same time that I was typing it in there. So one was the color palettes. Two is just the typography, right? The font type on DACdb. Like I'm the stickler, like for even the emails and stuff that we're doing in Canva. That it's there, and like so when we go into DACdb, like it doesn't have any of the license or even the free options really on the font types. So I think that would be good just for like brand consistency. It's just like the little things on all the, like emails, so any communications that we're trying to stay with that identity that's there. So that was one question. And then I also put in there the whole thing about when you're trying to save and it wasn't working on your Mac. Just hit save, hit your tab button, it'll go into that box. It depends if you got the touchpad or a mouse. So if you hit the tab, it should go in there. But the other question I had was, besides the EZ Bulletin, right? So, we're still using DACdb, but for our website, we went to the WordPress because this gives us more flexibility. Is there an option to have these easy stories if the clubs are doing it, that we can pull it into the WordPress site? And secondly, the question I had was, besides the EZ Bulletin in DACdb, what are some other platforms clubs or districts are doing for their newsletters? I know there's so many different ones, but really just having that template where we can pull these easy stories into to give us more flexibility on, not trying to squeeze a round peg into a square hole.
So we had a couple questions there, and I was going to answer the first one, and it's gone. So we'll move to the second one. Ashley, you have your hand up. Are you really wanting to add?
Sorry, I didn't pull it down from earlier when I asked my question. So
okay. So Nico wants to know what you all use for your district newsletters. So now's your time to shine. Lee Berger, I'm going to call on you because I know you. What does Franklin use for their bulletin?
Okay, you're using the word district, so I was like, no.
I'm sorry.
Judy over at DNet does our bulletin. So I have no idea.
Okay. Well, our
But
district,
she has got something from over there.
yeah, and she's talking about Judy, who is the head of an internet service provider. So she probably has quite a fancy tool that she uses. Tiffany is our bulletin editor at this time, Tiffany Irvin, and she uses DACdb and she pulls the stories, you know, from other people. But we have been doing a lot of stories from the district officers because we've lost some history during COVID. And so each month she has somebody different talking about what they do, how you can get in contact with them, how they can help you, those kinds of things. So that might be of interest to those of you that are writing district bulletins, typically the content. But Nico's specific question was, what are you using? Because back in the day, in 15, 16, I used Word. So it was ugly. Every time I moved a picture, everything moved. So
Nico, so for our club, we use Constant Contact. I know people are using like the normal, but again, by doing so, you have to also maintain the email and the email list. So some people find that to be troublesome by always making sure you have an up-to-date email list. We make it part of our process. When someone is added to our club, they get added to both email lists, both in DACdb, obviously, and to our Constant Contact list. Again, most of our people that are doing our PR, our public image, are used to using those type of platforms. So again, Vertical Response, Constant Contact, Miami, MailChimp, they're all very similar and more user-friendly than DACdb. So I think that, and right now we don't have a DACdb website. We're working on transitioning to that. On the district side, I will say that our district is still doing a PDF newsletter in which I fight with them pretty much on a monthly basis about the fact that people aren't downloading that anymore, and we have to put it in their hands to be able to see and view easily, even though it looks cool. I've even tried to get them to use like a viewer where it looks more like a magazine people can flip through. Like I've tried a lot of things to try to get us out of a PDF attachment, but I can't quite seem to get the person that's been doing the newsletter for more than a decade to change that philosophy. So it's hard sometimes to try to find the best medium. Like Billy was saying, when people want to print it out and read it, it's hard because a lot of the digital platforms aren't friendly to that platform, but then we also have to make sure we have a digital option. So yeah, I think from a public image standpoint, what I decided to do is that our newsletter is mainly geared towards our internal audience. So I have been taking those stories and putting them up on the blog section of our website, which is a DACdb WordPress website. But it would be nice if we could start doing some more of the automatic things. Unfortunately, my district isn't there yet.
Hi, Billy, you were asking what we use. I don't do this. Joanne Meeker in District 7600, it's done our bulletin, and you made me prompt. So I hopped onto DACdb and we're using this feature.
okay,
And
cool.
we create our bulletins through DACdb.
Anybody else help Nico out?
We've been kind of like copying everything that Ashley does in 7620 on ours. So keep leading the way because you know we're right behind you. A little R&D and just tweaking things along the way.
Well, she's a good lady to imitate, and imitation is the strongest form of flattery. Now, Nico's DGE Cam asked a question today of me, and I can only find two. He wanted to know if any of you have Polio Now infographics, you know, cool things that the outside world, like he could put on Facebook so that the outside world can see what we're doing in ending polio. And I found two, but they were kind of boring. They just didn't float my boat. But do any of you, have you found any?
Yeah, so there's a couple. So the end polio. So I wish my DGE would have called the DG. I could have saved them some time on that one. Yeah. So there's some in the whole toolkit, and what we did is on our website we took that whole kit and put it on the district. with the link, and then put everything on a Google Drive so the club members can download those infographics and everything else for the End Polio for their promotions. But there was a couple of infographics on there.
Yeah, and there are two in Polio now. Those are the two that I was looking at. Joe mentioned going to inpolionow.org, and there are two, but they don't have any, this is what this shows, which, you know, if you just stick something out there, you really need an explanation. And one
They
of them
have
was
scripts on. I really like the Empleo Now site. I think they've done a pretty. I think they've done a pretty good job of making it pretty easy. I actually just printed off some of the coloring pages that we're doing an event coming up on Sunday, and like it's so easy. But they actually have like text templates as well on that in that toolbox. And so again, you have the infographics, you have other kind of PDF things, but they also give you like Twitter suggestions and Facebook suggestions and whatnot. So if you hop on Polio Now and go to the World Polio Day Toolkit, I think they have done a really good job of trying to make it as easy as possible for us.
cool. And that's always a great idea, is to see what Rotary's got out there already. And Chuck Davidson is Chuck and Rocky, and Chuck is a little more digitally savvy than Rocky. So Chuck might also have some in PowerPoints or anything that he's doing. Anything, it sounds like we have gotten the bulletins and easy stories beat to death. Anything else you guys want to talk about? We've got about 8 more minutes.
All right, since everybody's being quiet, so one, absolutely love the End Polio. I think, like as you said, the resources on there, they're simple, it's there, and it's a matter of making it available for the members and the clubs. So, I guess with the bulletins, like we're still going back and forth. I mean, Jenny and I looked at a couple of things, and some like the digital magazine, to go through, and some people don't. They don't want to do it, and it's trying to navigate on how we're able to present and engage and connect differently now that we're into this post-pandemic. Or, I mean, I've been going on Zoom for 8 years now, so it's not something new, but have like the push notifications, how it's easy just to read something, and whether it's blog posts, which is on the WordPress site, right? Even though it's with DACdb versus an easy story, how do we do that? But how can the members get something to see that it's there? I think that's part of the challenge, because if we wait for a weekly or a monthly newsletter, somebody's got to put the story together, and then sometimes dates have passed, but it's trying to open up that communication. I love the constant contact and the MailChimp, but that works on the club level. But when you're sending it out to 3,000 people at the district level, to maintain that database, because as a DG, I mean, there's members coming and going every day. It's almost impossible to manage a separate database for that. So, love to continue seeing what everybody's doing. And we just created a team in Canva, which is the team is Jenny and I, and set up the templates and start. Hey, so what I found out is, like, Zone 34 has their Canvas set up, but it's the free one. So the free one, you can have hundreds of people on there, but you can't. There's a lot of things you cannot do. So on the pro account, we actually have to pay for each user on there, but we have the full branding on there, and we can do the typography and the colors, and we can work on stuff together. So I couldn't figure out that part. Yeah.
Tip on Canva, because I actually just was at my job. They now are allowing 5 user per pro account on the team that you don't have to pay for.
What?
Yeah, exactly. That's what I said. I was like fighting with one of my employees. I was like, no, we have to pay for everyone. We have to pay for everyone. And we didn't. So I think it's 5 that you get. So I would go back in and see who you can add underneath like that pro account. Because apparently now they give you 5 people per team that will be pro for free.
Okay, I'll look. I know there's something with the 5 on there, because if you go after that, then the price goes up. But and it wasn't for less than 5. It was at a reduced cost, but it still wasn't free. But I'll take a look again.
Well, and Nico, the other thing that you can do for perpetuity is make your sign-ins like District Governor 7680 at Gmail and PI Chair 7680, so that when you're not the district governor, Cam can log in easily and the next guy can log in, you know. So if you have generic, that's what we have done. Ours is like public image Z33 at gmail.org, so that it just keeps going and we don't have to keep changing who's allowed to get in there.
So I have a question, Billy, that is sort of related. So are any of you doing both internal and external newsletters? We have a club in 7600 who's doing an external newsletter for the community.
So I have some clubs in 7620, and I have an area governor actually who I helped get started. They have a Rotary clubs of Howard County, because there are 6 of them or 7 of them in that area, and they do it, and it's going really well. I mean, they allow people to opt in, they add all their grantees, all their partners, the elected officials in town. So for their landscape, it works really well. And while most of the information may be the same, it allows them to really showcase what they're doing and get opportunities out. So again, to me, that's more of a PI chair role, right? So an internal newsletter to me is a DCO role, a district secretary role. That's not public image, that's internal communications. For me, the external newsletter or getting the information out, I think is really helpful. For me, what I've done in 7620, the reason I use the blog feature instead of running an external district newsletter is because I'm trying to outfit my clubs in my district with easy things they can use. They can use a link to a blog on social media very quickly. They can take that and embed that in their newsletter really quickly, where a newsletter standalone may not be as easy for them to use on multiple formats. So I think it just kind of depends on the landscape, if it's a club, if it's a district, where they're at and what they're trying to accomplish. But I know some places have had success with that.
And Joe, did you have something? And I think I interrupted you a minute ago.
Hey, Ashley, can I geek out for a second? So the blog posts, when you're putting them on there, so other than the blog post going on the website, is it going anywhere else? Like, is it going to Twitter? Are you feeding it anywhere? Like, how do people know that the blog post is up?
So I don't have it feed automatically anywhere. You can through different, plugins and whatnot on WordPress. But I don't do it. I run it just a little bit differently based on how many social media pages I run regardless. So I run it a little bit differently, but you can. I typically, what I'll do is I'll get it up and then I'll schedule it to go out through Hootsuite onto our platforms. I'll make sure the club that's involved has it, that kind of stuff. So I do it a little bit more manually. That's because I try to make sure I'm spacing stuff out, and I may schedule out posts like 4 at a time to cover me for 6 weeks, 8 weeks, just because of my time block. But that's how I do it. But you certainly can do that where it feeds out more automatically.
Yeah, I don't know how. That's why I was asking. Other than
Oh, yeah.
we just learned how to put the blog post up, like watching yours. So Jenny and I started doing that. It's like, okay, well, it's there, but nobody knows to go to that part of the website and see. That's where the updates are.
Yeah, so let me ask some of my friends who definitely geek out more on the back end of WordPress than I do. I'm definitely a front end user than a back end builder, and so I do have some friends that do build that out. So let me see if I can find some plugin suggestions for you that you can do that with.
And make sure that you circle the date on your calendar in May 20th and 21st for all of you public image people to come and visit with us at Virginia Crossing. And you could get Ashley over a drink. You guys could figure out how to make this blog thing work for 7680. But it's been our pleasure tonight to visit with you all. Ken, you've been pretty quiet. You got anything to say?
Oh, I'm good. It's good to see everybody, and thanks for your. I was writing some notes because I can use that now back in my district, as maybe we can use it on the zone level as well. So.
And there's a video when you go to Easy Story on the left-hand side. It's a really good video. So if you want to watch some a better person present. And everybody be thinking about Alex. He's in his last week of flying for FedEx. And Janice actually gets to go down on the tarmac and bring his plane in, you know, she gets to bring it in with the lights on his last flight. So they'll be doing that at the last day in October. So it's kind of cool. So we'll see you the same time, same station, third Thursday in November. See ya.